Welcome back. Episode 7. We're getting up there. We're almost at 10. I'm
Over
Frank, and
halfway.
this is Erin. And our after last week having Tony Stewart on it's like, man, I feel like it's kind of getting easier now a little bit, but
A little bit less pressure.
yeah, he did all the talking. So,
Yeah.
well, this week we got Jeff Striegle coming on with us, promoter, and a lot of you people might know Jeff from
Is it on
MRN. He was a uh,
play-by-play,
yeah.
announcing all the races for 27 years.
Yeah, and now a promoter for 5 years with Berlin Raceway, going in their 75th anniversary.
I know that's an exciting year for them. I can't
Yeah,
wait to see everything that Jeff is doing to promote that track and all of his efforts pay off hopefully this year.
the one time we went there last year, I got to say this about I felt like that was a well promoted track.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to cut on anybody in racing, but we've lost a little bit of like promotion, right? It's promoting racing, and a
Yeah.
lot of times you get track owners, and then they hire someone that wants to promote, and Jeff's doing a great job over there. But yeah, this week we were going to talk a little bit of results. Erin, you got some results, but before we get started, we had kind of something pretty cool on GTR Ranch today.
Yeah.
Sweetie had her baby.
Yes.
Max was out on the lawnmower and trying to call Grant, trying to call us. Everybody, there's a there's a baby cow
There's
out in the
another. There's a
pasture.
new addition. Surprise.
And we all went out there, and it was cool because it was like the whole herd of us in the race shop here went out and seen Sweetie clean up her baby, and that's pretty neat.
That's
So
cool. Yeah, that's definitely not something anyone gets to see every day, and most people probably live their whole life without seeing a true little baby cow just born.
yeah, no, and I always say that all I know is anytime on the farm back home, we had a bull. No one messed with the bull. This bull that we have here, Bubbles the bull, is is the friendliest bull I ever met in my life. And he's just here's Sweetie having a baby, and here Bubbles comes up to the fence, and we're all patting him like, "What do you guys think?" And where's my cigar? You know. So that's pretty cool here for the ranch. But getting race cars done, we were planning on going up to the Cars Tour race this week, and we just had some stuff go down here at the ranch that we have to take care of. So we're gonna skip that out, and that gives us time to get Nick's other car done because we've
Yeah.
got his super finished up, and then now get his pro finished, and I feel like once we get that done, all our cars are ready to go here. So
Yeah.
because we're about to
Just
hit
keeping
May.
up with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think for results this week?
It was a busy week in racing. We had, what was it, the ASA tour at Dominion where
Yeah.
Carson Brown won.
I think that was their first race there too.
I
don't.
think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I
For the
think
ASA tour. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had the Cars Tour at Wake County. Do you remember who won that one?
Was it Mini Tyrell? I
I
think.
think so.
Yeah, Mini Tyrell.
Where
Based on left-handed chassis style cars, offset cars,
hmm
and that's more perimeter style. They're a one-off, one of their own, and it's very popular with Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Burton, and that grouping
Yeah,
of Kevin Harvick.
and
That group that's
especially in the Carolinas. But I
Yeah,
think it's something that would be cool to see grow. But it's also awesome how the Cars Tour is essentially a sanctioning body.
yeah, yeah,
I like the way that they run it. But then more locally, we also had New Smyrna Speedway, where we had Jason Vale it was twin 50s. We had Jason Vale win the first 50 lapper, and Gabriel Casagrande win the second 50 lapper. And then UARA was at Auburndale, where James Seawright won that one
for the sportsman race.
for
Huh?
sportsman.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a cool little series too down here.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting that going up north with that outlaw style car like
hmm
that. There were 602 motors, and I think Steve Dorr kind of started that, and then didn't kind of like Ricky Brooks kind of
Yeah.
took it
Yeah.
forward, and yeah, that's getting to be really popular here. Not getting to be, I think it's just been popular, but started out small, and now they got to pile them, and
The whole Sportsman series really
yeah,
has,
yeah,
for the past, I'd say 5 years, really taken off. And it's a really fun class to
yeah,
watch too.
yeah,
It's kind of like the guys who aren't ready or financially wanting
yep,
to run a late model. It's awesome for smaller teams to have
yeah.
something.
That stepping stone. and guy has a full-time job and can jump and go race and be competitive, and
Yeah, and
there's no
still get
bump
a little
stops
bit
or
of travel.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Right away I go into the tech part of it.
Straight there. Wouldn't expect anything less.
No, I like the class. I like the outlaw look. I know they're, they run like more of the bigger springs on the front, kind of a stock stub style thing, race car, but cool program down here. Kind of, I was up, we seen them at Georgia too, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's cool. So what
Yeah.
else you got?
And then coming up this weekend, it's another busy weekend. We've got at Five Flags the Blizzard Series on Friday night. On Saturday night, it's a doubleheader for them. Saturday night is the Southern Super Series at Mobile International Speedway, and then obviously the Cars Tour with
At Cordele.
at
Yeah,
Cordele,
that'll be a big deal.
Pro Late and Late Model
Yeah.
Stock.
And then that's the first time ever at Cordele
Yeah.
for the car store.
Yeah.
Like I said, that'll be a big deal. And Dale Jr. is
Yeah.
actually racing.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
Late Model Stocks.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good for that area. I feel like that. God, we talked about last week, right? That track is cool.
Yeah.
Nice place, nice facility. Nolan's got a beautiful place there, and I hope that can take off. for 'em.
Continue. Yeah. Yeah. It is a really cool track.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, we got Jeff Striegle coming on. We have Brian Campbell
Yeah.
from Michigan, and I know Brian. I raced with Brian back in, Jesus, goes the mid 2000s. But his dad, Freddie Campbell, was like a 10-time track champion over at Berlin, Michigan.
Wow.
So it's like I always look at them guys like your local hardcore weekly racers, and then they go out and they hit a bunch of tour racing and do what they can do. But like myself, we're just short track racers, and this is what we're about.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool talking to them guys today. So, yeah. So after this break here, we'll get on with Jeff Striegle, and we'll be right back.
The Thormeyer Family Christmas to Remember returns to Cindy Road in Lakeland on Fridays through Sundays, November 29th to December 22nd. Explore the stunning walk-through trees and light displays, enjoy beloved Christmas movies, and indulge in delicious festival foods. Meet the Grinch on Fridays and Santa on Saturdays, and pick out your freshly cut Christmas trees from a large variety. A Thormeyer Family Christmas.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Short Track Racing. We've got Jeff Striegle on the phone with us, and we're gonna go ahead and hop into a little bit about what Jeff's doing with
Yeah,
Berlin.
yeah. And we're how you got here, Jeff, right? First you started. We know you were with MRN as far as I remember, and then all of a sudden you're a promoter for the last 5 years for Berlin Raceway, going into your 75th anniversary season. So pretty cool stuff. So yeah, our first question is where is your racing background, and how did you get doing this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we don't have enough time for all of that, but It's great to be on with you guys. Great show last week, by the way. I love what you guys are doing, and it's a privilege to be on with you guys tonight. Um, I was raised there. I think, like so many of us, you go way, way, way back, and your dad was involved, or your family was involved. In this case, my dad was involved.
Yep.
And I can remember going to short tracks, from the time I could walk, maybe even before that. And I ended up at Berlin and loved it from the first time I ever stepped foot in it. And so I was a fan for a while, felt like I needed to race. So we got involved in racing, and I raced for, I guess, 12 years until the cost got, prohibitive, and the family was starting to come around. So I got out of it. I sat in the grandstand one night and recognized I was not going to be a good race fan any longer. I had to be involved in the sport. So, I got involved in PA. PA led to radio. We were doing radio at Berlin Raceway, and we were doing that patterned after what we hear with Motor Racing Network. Sent an audition tape into MRN. Got a call back to audition back in 1996, and got hired. And 27 years later, I retired from MRN, and then starting right now my 5th year as the general manager at Berlin Raceway.
And doing a super good job. Like I said, I was there last year, Jeff, just for the 250 race, and I just awesome. The whole thing, from the band to the party, how you treat the racers, the crews. You guys had food and doing a super good job. Like I said, I was there last year, Jeff, just for the two, just from the
Remain some of the lowest ticket prices in the country. Our food and beverage prices remain some of the lowest in the country. So we go out of our way. And I'm glad that you sat in, and I'm glad that you feel that way, because that's really our goal at the end of the day, is make sure that anybody, whether they've got a race car and a trailer or they're just showing up to watch, that they feel like they've had a great experience.
yeah, yeah. No, that's promoting racing should be. No, I had a great experience there when we came for our first time. I raced there years ago, back in the early to mid 2000s. I was there one time racing, but with Kendrick coming there racing that race, that was one of our first times with Grant, and we had a great time. Very well put together.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know that I think, if I'm not mistaken, Frank, and you can break it. I hope I'm not breaking news that shouldn't be broke, but I understand that you guys will have a car, and you will be in the field come opening day, April 26th, and then back again for Money in the Bank and Battle at Berlin.
Yeah, we're actually Evan Shako is putting a car together for Kendrick, to try one of his race cars over there. That's kind of his home track, and he's building chassis right now. And I seen one of his cars down there when we were there, and of course I build race cars, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I've been on the phone quite a bit with him, just trying to get the logistics and everything together, and have Kendrick try that car out. We build race cars here, but we're looking for the next thing, and I really like that car. What I seen I like, and when I'm a guy that builds everything in the race car, I like what I seen. And he's young. He's a young guy, and that's what we need, right? It's just like we were talking, like the future of this sport is getting these young guys into it. Right now it's hard to get kids off the phone, much less building race cars. And here you got, him and his family doing what they're doing, and just like no different my kid here, right? Building race cars and doing what we do. But yeah, so we're looking forward to that. We'll be there on the 26th. In fact, the 26th we race with you, and then the 27th is the opener, the All-Star Challenge race over at Slinger the next day. So we got to get on the road right away, right after we're done racing, hit Slinger for the opener, which we got to be there by 11 o'clock in the morning. So I'll be driving all night getting my kid there.
What's interesting about that, Frank, when you bring up Evan Shako, young, yes, he's 22 years old.
Yep.
Evan Shako is somebody who could be working on weekends, traveling the country with NASCAR if he elected to be. He's also a super talent behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Berlin and this area, as you all know, you've got Seneca Performance that is, give or take, 25 minutes from the racetrack. You have Van Dorn Racing Development,
Yep.
which is about 15 minutes the other direction, north of the racetrack. And then you have Evan Shotko, who is, I think by his own admission, breaking into this car building aspect of it.
Yep.
And he's about 20 minutes to the west of us. So we have three very, very talented race car companies with Shotco Performance, Van Dorn Racing Development, and now Shotco Motorsports. And you're not going to be disappointed. They put a very good race car together, and I know that Kendrick's going to enjoy driving it.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. I'm actually going to be crew chief in a car for Evan, for another driver. I'm going to wait for him to announce that, but 3 times this year. So I'll be there as a crew chief with his driver that he's got in the car too. Not only our son, or my son, but also helping him out and getting, trying to get him to where he's got to go in his future. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'll be spending that time. I'm on the same equator as Michigan, as in Wisconsin. I'm just across the lake. so it'll be a good time, but we're looking forward to it coming up there. So.
Yeah, let's just make sure that we have good weather, shall we?
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Up and down every single day. But, one thing about it, whether it's 35 degrees like it was for last year's season opener or 75 degrees like it was 2 years ago, the one thing you can count on, the season opener at Berlin Raceway, the stands are going to be packed and they're going to be ready to watch some good racing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So you got the opener coming on the 26th. What you got? Tell us a little bit about the big events you got coming up.
Well, I'd like to say it this way, Frank. We've got big events every single weekend that we
right?
Race, because we've got 18 different divisions that will, at one point or another, be at Berlin Raceway. So everything from dwarf cars and midgets to, this is besides the weekly series, and we can cover that in a minute, but, we got dwarf cars and midgets. We've got sprint cars and wing sprint cars. We've got the super modifieds, and I know Grant is chomping at the bit to get up here July 11 and 12, the fastest weekend of the entire season for us here when the super modifieds come to town for a Friday-Saturday show, and that's July 11 and 12. Our 2 big super late model races, June 4 and August 13, and those are both on Wednesdays. And then we wrap up the season with a pro late race, and that's going to be the weekend of September 5 and 6. So that's just what we've got coming in, and we run, as you guys know, we run super lates on a regular basis
on a weekly
along
program,
with limited late model, sportsman, and 4-cylinder. So we've got a lot of things going on each and every weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like I said. I feel like racing up by us, it's still strong. Like Michigan, when I was there, I felt that. Wisconsin's still strong. I mean, I remember Kenny Wallace had a podcast like racing's dying in Wisconsin, and I'm like, wow, I don't know what he's talking about. But I mean, we have on pretty average from 25 to 30 cars on an average night of racing over there for late models. So we're still strong too. That's great up there. We have some crazy innovation up there. I think all winter long we're cold and we sit in our garages and we come up with shit to build, and it's fun doing that. And yeah, then we come down here. But I think we drink beer and invent shit is what I think is what we more or less do. But
I got news for you. We drink beer up here too.
Yeah, that's right.
Plenty of it. When you talk about, and what a great point you make about, where racing is today. And obviously, there are some probably weak areas right now in the country.
Yep.
We know that. We know that we unfortunately we hear, every month that a track is going to close, and we hate that, right?
Yep.
But, as you point out, the racing is strong in Wisconsin. You go to the great Northeast, and racing is so strong over there. You look at, tracks like Stafford that are doing so well.
Yep.
Here in the state of Michigan, and you, the three of you know this, the Owasso Speedway and what they're doing at that racetrack. You add to that Flat Rock, Toledo, which, we still consider Toledo kind of a Michigan area racetrack.
Yeah, for sure.
But you got Kalamazoo, you've got the dirt tracks here, and they're all doing very well.
Yep.
We can always do better, but that's going to be, I think, contingent on the promoters to make sure that The product on the track is what people want to see. The atmosphere is what the people come to expect, and that the facility is clean and inviting. The first impression when you walk into a racetrack, and it is one of the first things you see, is going to be the bathrooms.
Yeah.
They better be clean and ready.
Yeah.
The concession stands, the food needs to be hot and it needs to be good. And then, of course, we get into the grandstands, and it's what we see on the racetrack. And I think a lot of the tracks, like you're talking about in Wisconsin, certainly here in Michigan, are doing everything they can to put on the best show we can.
Yeah. Yeah. We're blessed up there that the racing how it is and how it is up there. I know Florida there's tracks here that are struggling, and but I mean they're trying their hardest. Everybody's trying, and like I said, it's a tick different up there, and it's not very much talked about in the nation. But we do kind of got it going on, and we're lucky we have that up there. And well, it's no different why GTR comes up there pretty much May, June, July, and August. We're going up north racing, and I mean number two, it's hotter than hell here, so we'll
Yeah,
race when it's 105 degrees.
enjoyable up there. The weather is perfect.
We get all these cars done, we'll field half the field, and we've got enough race cars in our shop right now. we can.
Yeah, that's what the rumor is. I don't know if you want to share that at all, but I mean, I'm hearing that you've got, a dozen or 2 dozen race cars in there. You're just looking for drivers to drive them all. Is that true?
We got Taylor Swift that's running the super mods.
That's an inside joke. I get it.
Hey, whatever brings the rankings up. Our Taylor's not as cute as the.
No, not by a long shot. It weighs a lot more than the original, but again, that's kind of an inside joke. But, so tell me, tell the listeners. I know you've got pro lates and super lates, and there's a super modified sitting there. How close are you guys to? And I know you've already run a couple of races, but how soon will you have all of those race cars loaded on a trailer and heading one place or another?
So the super late models, we're pretty much wrapping that up this week. We're finalizing the supers. We have one more pro to completely finish up. I mean, in here in the shop, I mean, we have six people working, right? And so as far as the one pro that's final, we have 3 pros, 3 supers, and just trying to get that last pro done. And like I said, it's been a mad rush. Like I said, I got down here, the hurricane hit. It was chaos here. It was a month and a half, 2 months it was a mess here. I'll be honest with you. Grant had a hell of a mess here, and I mean fences and people don't realize he's got 15 acres here, and the fences are all laying on the ground around the whole 15 acres. So it's tractors and post hole diggers and posts, and then you're going to Home Depot, and everybody else in the world's at Home Depot because everybody else has got damage. So we came down to build race cars, and we worked on a ranch for pretty much 4 months.
Yeah.
And we finally got into the shop. I would say a solid second week in January, started really getting after it in February. And so I'm actually pretty impressed what we got done. And that's the part in this here too, plus building it up, right? Where a lot of the stuff I'm trying to get to my, where it's my car, I know what I'm working on. So I'm excited, and when we're getting it done right now. And then the super mod came in this week as a chassis, and I'm telling you, it's half put together ready.
Yeah.
And we just got it here, and wait till you see that thing. It's Pearl Essence Purple. It's a illusion purple. It's just, I've never even seen that. That thing's awesome.
No,
ain't it?
it's beautiful.
It's
yeah.
like quite a.
I've never seen a color like that.
Yeah, the chassis is just beautiful, and then of course 900 and some horsepower engine, big blocks in the left. I can't wait for Kendrick to drive that thing.
So, Erin, the rumor is that Grant Thormeyer now is employing more people at the race shop than what Roger Penske does at Team Penske. Is that true?
It's pretty close.
Well, we got Sweetie the cow that just had a baby, so now we got to hire another ranch hand. We got a whole other cow to take care of. No, just kidding.
No, he has a very.
But yeah, no, that was fun today. But hey, I guess you got Brian Campbell coming on. We're going to talk with Brian a little bit, and he's from your neck of the woods. I know Brian from racing back in the day with him in the Sunoco Super Series. But after these messages here, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll bring on Brian and Jeff, and you're going to hang right with us.
All right, perfect.
Sounds good. After these messages. Thank you.
The Thormeyer Family Christmas to Remember returns to Cindy Road in Lakeland on Fridays through Sundays, November 29th to December 22nd. Explore the stunning walk-through trees and light displays, enjoy beloved Christmas movies, and indulge in delicious festival foods. Meet the Grinch on Fridays and Santa on Saturdays, and pick out your freshly cut Christmas trees from a large variety. A Thormeyer Family Christmas.
Welcome.
Go ahead, Erin. You can-
Welcome back to Let's Talk Short Track Racing. We are back with Jeff Striegle.
And we got Brian Campbell from Michigan on the phone with us with Jeff. Brian, me and you, we know each other back. I used to race for Culver's, and we raced back in the Sunoco Super Series days. But now I'm down here in Florida doing a podcast and building race cars and being a crew chief down here. But yeah, no, we got Jeff Striegle, the promoter of Berlin Raceway, on 75th anniversary coming into that season, and Brian Campbell. And Brian is a short track late model racer up in Michigan area, and you do some traveling a little bit too, don't you, Brian?
Yeah, we've done a lot more in the past. We're all getting a little older, a little wiser about everything now, and so we're sticking around home a little more. But we do venture out, now and again, Toledo, Wasso, different places. But Berlin is definitely home.
Home base, yeah. And I said just the cost of racing nowadays, it's great. Now, it's great to stay home too. I feel like a lot of times, and I've done it too, right? You travel all over the countryside, and you're checking all these different racetracks out. But man, just nowadays the funding's a little tougher to get, and to go do all the stuff that we do, and the technology in these cars are so far advanced that it just costs, and so when that all adds up, it's a little tougher to go out there. But yeah, I know we were gonna have Jeff. He knows a lot about your family. I know your dad and the things he's done. He was a 10-time track champion at Berlin, and you're on that motion of him, right? You're 4-time track champion.
Yeah, we got a couple under our belt so far, for sure. Yeah, not quite 10 yet.
No, okay. Does he get on you, like, does your dad get on you kind of like, hey, you haven't done what I've done yet?
No, none of that. No. He just gets on a weekly basis. If I do something dumb on the track or something, he doesn't call me out on Front Street, but that's a Sunday morning phone call, that's for sure.
Because I just got it, my dad raced.
I'm 46 and he still does that, so yeah.
Yeah, my dad raced, and then my grandfather raced, and my great-grandfather raced. So I'm actually Kendrick's fifth generation. So I love when the family, and Jeff, you were just talking about that. That's one thing with this race, and it's a small family actually entirely. Because I mean, just like I just know Brian from racing back in the day when I came down and did that stuff with Glenn Luckett and that group there. Back R.J. Scott and that group back in the day. But so yeah,
Well,
Jeff's going to do some talking.
I was going to say, Frank, that, I mentioned I sat in the grandstands and watched, back when I was 6, 8, 10 years old. And, some of those fond memories were watching the 47 car of Freddie Campbell and becoming a fan right then. And, I got to, tip a cap to Brian. It was a proud day when Brian elected to go and travel and win races nationwide. And it was a real happy day when he came to us and said, you know what, I think I'm done traveling. I think we're just going to call Berlin Raceway home. And he won the track championship the first year that the Super Lates ran at Berlin Raceway before he and the team decided to go and chase, CRA and, like you said, Glenn Luckett and that team. But again, it was a proud moment for all of us, a happy moment when we found out Brian was going to come back and chase championships at Berlin Raceway. And as you pointed out, he's a 4-time champion, back-to-back champion. He won the championship in 24. He won it in 23. And your first one, Brian, I think was in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. But
yes.
Before we even go there, go back. What are some of we're talking Berlin Raceway here tonight, and thanks for allowing us to do that as we do celebrate our 75th anniversary up here at Berlin. What are some of the early memories that you have of Berlin Raceway, and maybe more in particularly watching your dad race each and every Saturday night?
Yeah, it goes. My earliest childhood memories are cleaning my dad's race car, cleaning rubber off the race car. I was the guy that had to get inside the car, or the kid, and clean the back window. You know how that's difficult for all of us. And and then go up to the track, and I was let's say air quotes 18. I think when I was 12 or 13 years old, getting in the pits, sneaking into my grandparents' trunk, getting me in the pit. Oh my gosh, it was all over the place. Trying to and just trying to get down there, and then that was all to help and watch my dad and my grandpa. So that was a family-run team. Um, since from 1970 to, I'm not for sure when they actually sold out everything to Harley, 98, 99, something like that. When my dad couldn't do it anymore by himself. The expenses and the traveling, the time, and my grandpa was getting older. But goodness gracious, at Berlin was my, like I said, earliest memories, watching in the grandstands, in the pits. If I couldn't get out of school, had a baseball game, my mom would run me up there afterwards. It was earliest memories, great memories.
Yeah.
And when he says Harley, he's referring to Harley Bovey, who,
Yes.
of course, was Port City Racing, and
Yep.
all of the legendary drivers that ran for Port City, such as Butch Miller, and the list goes on and on and on. We were talking, the three of us, and Grant, I guess the four of us were talking prior to you coming on. To think about your dad winning 10 championships did not come easy. He raced against Randy Sweet. He raced against Tim Steele. He raced against Johnny Benson. And that's just the short list. But we were talking about some of the other great names that have been racing at the Berlin Raceway for years and years, and I hate to put you on the spot, but who were some of those that you remember that were either arch rivals to your dad? Again, we're talking about Freddie Campbell, either arch rivals or close friends. What are some of the other names that come to the top of your mind?
Well, I get the opportunity to race against one of them still is Joe Bush.
Sure.
Bob Holly. Andy Ponstein, he went off and ran Bush Series for a while. That whole group there between the Ponsteins and Bob Holly were, between every single weekend it seems like one or the other was running races. Jack Gritter was another one that gets the tech cars now. Everybody knows Jack, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, those lists can go, and we could sit here and talk for 2 hours about Joe Maisie and Bob Holly and goodness gracious, that list could go on forever.
Yeah. What do you see? And Frank, I know that this is probably a question you are going to ask, but you've been involved in it in the garage now for the better part of 40 years. What do you see as the biggest change from then to today, maybe other than the flat out cost of racing?
Yeah, it's the technology and your window of success is so small. Meaning your car has to be, for instance, back in when my dad won a whole bunch of races, it was a pair of 300s up front, a pair of 200s in the back. You might get away with a 185 in the right rear, maybe, right? Now you're running on millimeters instead of inches.
Yeah.
You're running on thousandths instead of eighths. So your window of your cars are, and that's translated down from cup cars, right? So they, not so long ago, cup cars were still measuring tires in eighths. Now they're measuring in millimeters. That's all coming down to us, and we're realizing that these cars can get that tight of tolerances, and when you do, those thousandths start getting shaved off your seconds of your lap times, and that's what it's about.
The critical.
And it's
The
about the
cars are
longevity
so
of the car.
critical. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frank can be, anybody can be the greatest driver, but you need a car that can shine. And where that statement really is is found is in a guy like Campy or Donnie Wilson, who does the, I don't want to say rents the cars, but more or less. But they go out and win with different drivers, and those kids are good, right? But those cars are prepared like Cup cars, and they are perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what you're racing against. In my opinion, that's the largest thing. Everybody's doing everything good, but everybody doesn't do the small things excellent, and that's what it takes to get it done.
Yep. Exactly. The testing.
Yeah, I know, Frank, that you're gonna.
That's
I was
like
just going to say,
saying
Frank, I know you're going to talk about technology coming up here in a few minutes.
Yeah. No, that's why I said, Brian, I'll for sure keep you on during that, because we have a tech talk usually the last 15 minutes of our show, and I always say that where this sport is going, and it's so important to talk about it, because it's taken us old racers to, like, I always feel like, where do we pull the reins? When do we start pulling the reins? We gotta slow the roll. Like Brian's saying there, the critical in these cars is so crazy critical. But what happens is, we used to have, I always say, the electricians that dad owned electrical company, and then they had a race car in their garage, and then all week long they're working on their business, and then they come and they go racing on the weekend. We've lost that because of how critical these cars got to be, and it's no different than Grant sitting here we have employees in the shop, and this is what we got to do. We got to prepare these cars to perfection, and we're doing it with old cars turned into new cars. Like, we're taking older cars and putting new suspension on them and moving things and changing things and putting them on, setting them up a totally different way. But the critical part is just definitely where I always say technology, these things are animals, but that I guess we got some questions, huh?
Yeah, looks like we had a few questions come in.
We're getting all this new technology in the old podcast here. So right now we got Erin. I'm going to let you ask. This is from Jake Wilson, huh?
Yes, and it looks like it is going to be for Jeff. Jake wants to know how difficult the decision to step away from MRN was, and how the shift has been going to Berlin.
Easy. He was there when he was a kid.
It's been tough, Erin, and thanks for the question. It's not been easy, that's for sure. It was a difficult decision to make just over a year ago, and then wrapping up my final season and going into Phoenix was super hard. But I also knew that it was time for me to step away and time for me to do things here with my wife, with my family, with my grandkids, and so that part of it has made it somewhat easy. All of my attention, and Brian can speak to that, but he sees it. All of my attention right now is on Berlin Raceway and just trying to make it a better track today than what it was yesterday. And I enjoy that, but I certainly do miss I miss the travel. I miss my friends. I miss my colleagues immensely, but I'm happy with my decision.
Awesome.
So am I.
Yeah, I am too. You're doing a great job over there. I said, Jeff, actually, I bought a racetrack. I bought the Dells Raceway Park years ago out of foreclosure. It went into foreclosure not because it was failing. It went into foreclosure because the guy that his other business went into foreclosure, and he was robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that sort of thing. But I one thing with that humbled me, right? That humbled me, and like we were just talking, Brian. One thing I would consider myself like a 1%er in short track racing. When I raced, I had really nice stuff. I had a great sponsor, but I owned a X-ray business I did well with, and so I had really nice cars, and I raced all over and did these things. But the one thing I on a track, you find out all the different characters that race there, right? And it takes all them different characters to make it. And when you're a super late model guy, you're just focused on the super late model world. Well, there's this whole other world. There's your four cylinders, your pure stocks, all these different classes, and they were the ones that made your track. I mean, it was the whole group took to make the whole track, from the legend cars to the dwarf cars, like you were saying. You have all these different venues of cars, so you got to lean on every different part of it. And that's, I said, and the goal is to build growth, right? You're trying to take your limited late model guys, build them into super late model guys. You're making them steps, and that's the part where making that whole circle happen so there's a future in it, and that's where, I'll be honest, I sold the track because it was worse than owning a boat. So I feel for you, but no, I just had so much going on in my life at that point. But like we were saying, Brian, where all this stuff is going, it takes racers like you and me and our, guys, that the things that we've done to try to get this short track, to get it going where, and work with guys. Jeff, I look at you like a true promoter. Like I always say, there's track owners and then there's promoters. And that's a lot of sometimes what's missing. And I feel that a little bit down here for sure. I really feel like that, and not beating up anybody, but when the track owner's there in the pits and all he's worried about is what the drivers are doing, I'm like, is anybody up there worrying about what the fans want? Like that sort of thing. And that's an important piece of the puzzle. And because then you're not beating up the racers per pit slabs and all the things that these tracks like to do. And that, here you got the trapeze artist and he's paying his way to, to be a trapeze artist. And that's the things I feel that's happening now in racing. So, but we have another question.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a question this time. This one's coming in for Brian. Brian, this is from Alec. He says, Brian, you're known as a well-known short track driver in the industry. And what would you consider to be the biggest win in your career?
It's a split between Nashville winning the guitar or Bristol.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be big.
One of the two.
Yeah.
That would be tough to choose. I could see that.
Yep.
Sorry, Jeff,
Okay,
not a Berlin race.
Brian, you do know that you have to go through tech on the 26th, right?
So I'm third on that list.
Hey,
would be my
so
Banks when I pass Bubba. How about that one?
Brian wants to know what trophy is going to be at Berlin for the 75th anniversary. So you got a guitar. What are you guys doing?
No, it's not going to be a guitar. It's going to be an HD5 trophy. He's familiar with them. He's got enough of them on his shelf. But I can tell you that we are working on kind of a special trophy for this year. So, Brian, tune the car up. Let's talk about Berlin. No, I'm kidding.
We're bringing a baby calf. Whoever wins gets a baby cow.
We have barns. We can.
You can't eat it though because it's a pet.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not even kidding you. I won a half a side of beef at a race one time. I thought, and at first I was like, "Oh, this is different." Hell, a half a side of beef is like $800 and some back then, and now it's like
a lot of money.
Yeah, I was like, this ain't a bad deal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Up here, we trade that in for a case of beer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we would. Yeah, just a case.
Correct.
That's awesome. But we got another question.
Yes, and this one looks like it's for Jeff again. What are some challenges you're continuing to face growing the fan base at Berlin?
Economy, number one, I think has to be, right up there. We all face it. I'm going to leave it right there. There's probably a lot of them. I look at every aspect of it. Again, I look at entertainment value, making sure that, the customer feels like, the race fan feels like when they leave the Berlin Raceway that they had fun, they got their money's worth, they didn't get robbed at the front gate, they didn't get robbed at the concession stand. Having the opportunity to go down and meet Brian after the races. We open up the pit area, and Brian can touch on this. We hear it from drivers that come to Berlin for the first time, and we open the pit gate. That place is flooded with race fans, and that's a cool aspect of it. Erin, that's a really good question. You got to look at everything, and I kind of touched on it earlier, just making sure that the facility is clean and inviting, that the employees are warm and welcoming, that, the food is good, that the racing is good, and Brian, you can touch on this, and I keep saying it, and I don't let you to respond. But Brian, you know that when we say we're going to start at 6:30, our national anthem, Brian, is at 6:30. We're rolling race cars. We don't delay.
Yeah.
And 2.5 hours or 3 hours later, we're done and the pits are open, Brian, and that's important to all of us.
So we don't get to see the backside of all of it, and I get to hear about it, right, from some of the guys that work there and own the place, and Jeff. But I can tell you this from my wife and my family being up there is Berlin doesn't give people a reason why not to come. The experience is good. They enjoy it. They say it's going to be a 2.5 hour show. It is. It doesn't run late. They say fireworks are going to be at 9:12. They go off at 9:12. It's from my perspective, it's awfully hard not to race there because of that family aspect and the way they march their show right down the line.
That's a good. I always say nowadays we're all short tension, right? We all have a short tension span. Why? And I'll blame cell phones again because just look at TikTok. Our entertainment nowadays, these kids got their face in the phone. They look at like these little blip clips, and it's over. And when you go to the races back in the day, Jeff, when and even Brian, when we were younger, we're okay with sitting there for 3-4 hours because this is entertainment. Sitting on a wood beam and having a couple beers or whatever. But nowadays, you're right. You got to have that show done in 2.5-3 hours. Otherwise, you lose the fan. And I just sat out there and it got, it was just horrible. I sat out there and they're dragging, even the safety teams. You got to make sure your safety teams are quick and prompt, and you can't have your racers battling with each other, chasing each other around the racetrack. I'm just talking because I see this stuff happen in places. But, no, it is, and I feel like that at home too. They do very well in Wisconsin about that. They're very prompt, and prompt is everything, and that's awesome. I love hearing that. Like I said, my experience there was awesome.
Yeah.
When we went.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we can't wait. Yeah, little man will be up there racing on the 26th. That'll be a good time for sure.
And Jeff, one last question for you. How do you think your experience with traveling the NASCAR series and with MRN is helping you with the promotion side of Berlin?
Great question and an easy one to answer. And I will take you back about 10 years ago, give or take. The folks at Michigan International Speedway, I've become friends with them for years and years. And we were standing around at that track for one of their cup races and just kind of shooting the bull before everybody went on the air and we got to racing. And the comment was made that there were 75 things going on at Michigan International Speedway besides racing. And it kind of struck me, we see it, but we just, we become used to it. We just, it becomes normal. But it kind of caught me off guard. It's like, man, that goes a long way from when we went to Berlin Raceway and watched Freddie Campbell race. We drove there, we went in the grandstands, we got a hot dog, we watched him race, and then we went home. Well, you can't do that anymore. And I think NASCAR has proven that, IndyCar, Formula One, those guys have proven that, again, that value for the dollar goes far beyond what you put on at the racetrack. You've got to have other things that occupy, and Frank, you were just talking about the attention span. You've got to have something going on besides just what's going on the racetrack. I know that Brian Campbell and the rest of the drivers are going to entertain when they're on the racetrack. But in that downtime, what are we doing to give that fan, give that new fan, that young fan something to watch and enjoy, and hopefully go back and talk about that Monday wherever they're working and say, man, we spent a day at the racetrack and what a great experience we had. We did this, we did that, and the racing was fantastic besides all of that.
Yeah, you hit right on that. My joke was years ago was I went to a PBR rodeo. They ride the bull 8 seconds, right? And between the two bull rides from 8 seconds, there's these clowns doing a clown act. And I mean, literally involving the fan. They were involving the fans. The guy, the commentator, the clowns, they were involved. And I said that. I said that even when I had the track, I said, man, I got to get my announcers to figure out how to get the fans involved into the sport with us, as it, whether it's music or however it is. But there's something about that, making that happen. That
You know, the thing is too is it's a balance because the end of the day, the fan that shows up is there to watch Brian Campbell and super late models or super modifieds or whatever you've been advertising. And so you've got to make sure that you don't take away from that experience. You don't want to drag the program out with, something silly on the racetrack that people aren't interested in. They're there to see racing. But we want to make sure that when there isn't racing on the racetrack, that there is at least something else going on in the environment that keeps them occupied and keeps them happy.
yeah, for sure. Hey, I guess we're going to take a real quick break. We're going to keep you guys on, and we're going to get back. We'll do a little bit of tech talk, and I think Jeff, you'll stay. And we got to before we go here, real quick. We were at your track last year. At the end of the night, when you talked about opening them gates up. So at the end of the night, I wanted to say this. So this kid came up and did a painting of the race cars. And the kid was a handicapped child and came up to Grant and painted all the cars that we had there, the orange, black, and white car. And that kid came up and drew that car. And it was funny because this is a fan, right? We don't know who he is. And he handed us these paintings. We hang them up. We have them hung up on our wall right now. And they're like art in our thing, but it was awesome. But that involvement, and you don't see that. That was, to me, was pretty neat that happened.
Yeah.
That kid that did that was really neat. And
That's for sure.
Something caught the eye of the car. That color caught that kid's eye, and he came to us. When he drew these paintings, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go to a break real quick here, guys, and we'll be right back. Let's talk short track.
The Thormeyer Family Christmas to Remember returns to Cindy Road in Lakeland on Fridays through Sundays, November 29th to December 22nd. Explore the stunning walk-through trees and light displays, enjoy beloved Christmas movies, and indulge in delicious festival foods. Meet the Grinch on Fridays and Santa on Saturdays, and pick out your freshly cut Christmas trees from a large variety. A Thormeyer Family Christmas.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Short Track. This is Tech Talk, 15 minutes with me and Nate, and we got Brian Campbell with us. This will be fun. We could come up with some shit that we could talk about. You got a beer, Brian? That's the first thing we start out with. Michelob. You got your Coors.
I've got Coors Light. I've got Coors Light.
So we Taylor Swift tried to get us drunk before we got on here to talk Tech Talk. So that's our new nickname for our boss.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift. So I didn't really have anything to talk about except for a little bit about, actually Jeff kind of hit on it a little bit, like, biggest thing, Brian, we're talking about where is this heading? And I look at it like a 10-year run, right? Where is this heading in 10 years? I mean, these cars are so technical nowadays. And we're pretty much super late model guys, right? That's what we do. I think one thing Berlin has, I'll be honest with you, they got a kick-ass tire that I don't give a shit what you got for a motor. I don't care what you, like, I feel like that's, you guys have got that corner covered in that where you can, that tire takes a lot of, it takes a lot out of it. Really, it does. I mean, that's how I felt when I was there. That was the first time, you know.
We did a tire test for it with Evan Shocko, and you know the I can remember him and I both talking after the test, Evan and I,
Yep.
and we were talking with the American Racer guys, and all we said was this is going to be good. Everybody is going to bitch because it makes you drive it. Like, you got to drive the car.
Yeah.
It's not soft. It's not hard. It's just, it lasts forever. But dang, you got to drive the thing, and you really got to do it. And that was a big complaint from the people at Berlin, was that. But once they got past it and recognized that the tire will repeat, you're going to get the same thing every week. It's the same cost every week. So what are you really complaining about? And like you just said, Frank, it is what it is. It's a good tire.
Yeah.
They're onto something there.
Yeah, I like that. We have like our Prolates over in Wisconsin, they're on an 8-inch tire. They have, or it's actually a 9-inch tire. It's kind of different. It's called the D800 Hoosier D800. It changed. It was I always felt a good tire, and then I always call it pandemic ruined the tire because it must have the COVID or something. So they changed the tire completely. Yeah. And if you had a whole pile of the old ones, everybody was hanging on to the old ones and using them. You were even actually faster on a used tire than you were on a new one. But tires is everything. American Racer, I'll tell you, they do a good job. Down here they race on that 153, that 10-inch. Me and Nate, we like that tire, right?
I love it. I mean, obviously with running it so much, like, you do have your certain issues with them from time to time. But they're way more consistent than the Hoosier and
repeatable.
Repeatable. You run 150 laps on them and then
go practice. That's what I like, and that's what I felt like that McCreary up by you guys. Like Kendrick said when he got on, that was the first time he raced. Was that race we went up there, and he says, "Oh, Frankie here." He's like, "Dad, you got to wheel these things a little bit." You got to. And I said, "Well, welcome to racing, man. That's back when I did." When Brian was talking earlier about, hey, we had a pair of 300s and 150s in the back or 200s in the back. That's what we raced. And he had a pair of Carrera 5 shocks and 4s on the rear. This is 1990, and that's what you raced. Nowadays we're oh, it's crazy. But yeah, that's one thing up there you guys got going for you. I mean, to stay right on that. The way you're going with that is good. And like I said, it only makes better racers when they actually put the driver back in the seat. It makes great racing, and the other thing, you almost don't have to pull the hood up in the tech shed. You could be out there with a crate engine, and you could be out there with a built motor. And you guys up there, are you guys on 2 barrels with the built motors or 4 barrels?
Well, you can put a 2 barrel on if you'd like. There are people that have done that, but it's mainly 4 barrels and restrictors.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, so they're just restricted and bound with the 4 barrel restrict. Over there in Wisconsin side, we're all our super stuff over in Wisconsin's all 2 barrel stuff, and that was I don't know. It happened in 2001. I'll never forget it because we were all in a meeting one time, and they said, we're going 2 barrel racing. And I'm like, okay, after we all just spent $3,500 on a DEI carburetor, that's how I used to say it. Like, and now you're going to make us buy 2 barrels. And, then they got to build, the engine builders are going to change a cam and change the heads and do all the work with a 2 barrel motor. Back then it was 9-to-1 stuff. But every time they make a rule change like that, it's just costly at the end of the day, but yeah. No, you guys kind of got it going over there, but anything else, Brian, that you feel, I always felt, if I looked at the history of this sport, I felt like I'm going to use probably 2003 to 2004 era, when the bump stop came out. And I'll never forget saying this to myself. I said, this isn't good. And the reason why I said that was, because Penske had remember that little rubber bush bump stop that we all had? It was a yellow one and a red one. And first I think it was just a white one. Then it went red. Then you had the color ones. It goes back that far. But I kept saying, like, this is going to be bad because then guys are going to put rubbers. Then they're going to get this kind. And here, as I remember even saying this back then, and here we are. And I go over to Grant's cabinet over here, and we got what do we got over there? $30,000
Yeah,
in bump
springs.
stops and springs and oh my Lord, the
Yeah.
list goes on of what you need, and we're talking about technical, right? And the sad part is, if Campy goes over there, wins a race at that racetrack, and he had a blue rubber in, everybody's going to buy a blue
Yeah.
rubber because they think they need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that
Well,
hurts the sport.
the traveling guys definitely are. They do it, and they do it every week, and they got full-time guys.
Yep.
And that's all they do, right?
Yep.
But I'll tell you that the same. If you can build a shock, which I can. If you can put bumps on it, you can understand a little bit of engineering and a spring smasher, right?
Yep.
There's not a lot more. I mean, then it's just down to millimeters and thousandths and measuring stuff, right?
Yep.
So you're the value, the dollar amount is a lot, right? Because you're still spending money on shocks and springs and all that stuff, right? You are.
Yep.
But it's not just the money. It's the understanding of what
You're doing.
the car is doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Of the engineering behind it, and if someone can't like your Saturday night racer at Berlin, if they can't figure it out, well, then they gotta ask, and they have to go to work. They can't just blame it on the money, right?
Yep.
So like I'll just say for me, and my wife is sitting right next to me listening to me, so she knows this. I watch YouTube videos all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And if I don't understand something, I have to like bear down and learn it.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it be how to go hunt a deer or set up a shock, right? I have to go do that. And that's what I do. Spend all my waking moments watching YouTube or reading or doing something other than, just going out all the time. So I'm constantly learning and evolving what it's taken, but it's not money. It doesn't take money to go do that. It's just a drive and an understanding of what the car is asking you to do, right? And then whether you have a data hack on a car or not, you can still get to those diagnoses with just straight up shock rubbers and bump indicators, and then it's just a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
So it's just yes, it doesn't take a long time, and yes, if you have all that fancy equipment, does it shorten that gap up? Sure. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't, because all that helps and definitely helps. But there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money that's spent on race cars, on with people that have no freaking clue and don't have the understanding behind what actually it takes to make a car go around in a circle real fast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always look at all the years you guys have been doing this. No different my family. My wife reminds me all the time. She said we could have owned an island. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No joke.
Right.
Yeah.
As your wife sitting there in the background,
yeah.
like, boy, I agree with
Oh yeah. Well, it's the time. Oh yeah, it's the time. Whenever I'm done, I'm gonna have to find another hobby. I can tell you that. I can't come home. There's no way I'm coming home. So,
I don't know what to do. I tried to quit one time.
Yeah.
I made it about 6 months. And my wife said to me, she goes, you better tell that little boy that this is what we do, and you better figure out your problem. My wife loves racing. I'm just like, sometimes you just want to rest, but
Then you moved to Florida and you get to do it year round.
yeah, now I'm down here and I'm like, man, I don't
There's
have
no
usually
off-season.
up by us, right, Brian? We're all winter long. We're reinventing the wheel and trying to make shit fast. And down here, it's
yeah.
like we don't have time. We're just right back at it. Oh man, it's a good.
I took six complete different. I was already out to Berlin one time this year when it was 70 degrees back in March, and it had the track swept off, and it was nice. It was like 6, 7 of us out there, and I had like 6 different full-blown deals, like ripping front ends off and putting front ends on, and ripping rear shocks off and putting. You know what we wound up with? Right back to baseline.
Yeah,
So,
always goes
What
back to
you noticed,
baseline.
all of it goes in the trash.
Yeah. I love when
and we start over, right?
I love taking a new kid out racing. You have your baseline, you go out, the kids, you're moving the car all over the place, and then when you're end of the day, you're right back to where the car was when you unloaded.
Yeah.
That's my pretty much average what happens to me with, especially when I get new kids in the car. Like when you have a kid in the car and they're learning and you got to move it around for them, and then they're not comfortable the way you had it, but then by the end of the practice, they're comfortable, and then you're right back at it.
Yeah.
That's.
Yep.
As much as I say I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love doing what I do. I love doing this. I like seeing young generation kids get in it, and I'm blessed to have a kid that like Kendrick's homeschooled, and then he was in the shop, early, and then boom, and now he's here working at Grant's building race cars, and at such a young age, 17 years old, and he's not nothing he can't do. There's nothing he cannot do. He tins the cars, he bodies them, does it all. But Brian, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We got 5 minutes to go, or 1 minute, I guess. But we're definitely gonna reach back out when I'm up in Berlin up there. I'm gonna have you back on again because it's like guys like you and me have been around this business a long time. We've seen every different aspect. I've done every aspect of it, from being a promoter, from being a race driver, to a promoter, to a track owner, back to a promoter, and still doing some of that stuff a little bit. Now I have a damn podcast. I don't know how I got sucked into this, but
Fucking Grant.
but yeah, we're gonna get our messages here. But Brian, thank you for being on with us. I wish we could have had you longer, but we'll catch up another time for sure. We will. And this is short. Let's talk short track. Peace out.
Thank you.
And Jeff, if you're on there, thank you. Still on there?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for being on, boys. I appreciate it. We'll do this again soon, and I think when we're up there with you guys, we're going to do it right up from your house up there at Berlin Raceway.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that'll
Sounds
be a good
good.
time. Thanks again,
Good
guys.
deal. Sounds good.
You bet.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank
Goodbye.
you. See ya. Bye-bye.
Well, what do you think, Nate? That was
You just listen to him, That's you just,
Are we still on? Well, I guess that's our episode 7 end, right? What do you want to talk about? You getting the truck done anyway, huh?
getting the truck done. Future guests, I think
Yep.
we're gonna try to invite Travis Braden, Augie Grill. Who else do you guys want to come up? Some guys from up north.
Yeah, I think I know we're going to bring on Travis Stasso from Slinger Speedway. Try to get him on here.
What about
And,
Shaco? Is he gonna come up?
We should have Shaco
Yeah.
on. I think after we do the
Berlin.
Berlin race with Kendrick up there with him, I'm looking forward to that with that family. Like I said, I love meeting new families and doing this stuff, and we're going to help them out, crew chief that deal, and I'll drag you up there with me
Yeah.
for them 3 races. So we'll be up there racing. So
Yeah.
I guess
I'm excited.
yeah. Yeah. So apparently we got to round up Matt Kenseth for Kerry. We got to get him on here, and
All she has to do is call him.
I'll see if I can get Jeff Gordon on here for my wife, because she'll probably give the interview.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna call Dale Earnhardt.
but no, it'll be. Well, I said we were going to get Donald Trump. I think we
Yeah.
should have him on here.
Well,
There should be
get
no
Trump.
problem getting him on here. I mean, I think we'll just have his wife on here myself. I mean,
Which one?
The Thormeyer Family Christmas to Remember returns to Cindy Road in Lakeland on Fridays through Sundays, November 29th to December 22nd. Explore the stunning walk-through trees and light displays, enjoy beloved Christmas movies, and indulge in delicious festival foods. Meet the Grinch on Fridays and Santa on Saturdays, and pick out your freshly cut Christmas trees from a large variety. A Thormeyer Family Christmas.